A few years ago, I made some top recommendation book type of videos, and as well as documentary videos. But in this video, volume number 1, top author recommendations, I wanted to open up a reader's mind to new wisdoms, new truths, new perspectives and opinions, and as there's so much misinformation, disinformation, conspiracies, lies, fake news, propaganda campaigns, and false flags these days in the industry and industries and on the television and the internet. So I wanted to recommend some really high quality books that'll be very beneficial for a human collective. And I often receive a variety of different emails saying, what are the best books? What are the good books? What are books on this topic and that topic? And I see my viewers as a family, as a Canadian Awareness family, as I always say. So in this volume number 1, I will recommend 21 authors who wrote wonderfully and who cover a variety of different topics and genres and fields, ranging really from spirituality to health, to diet, to detox, to mental wellness, mental health, nutrition, but then again, ancient civilizations, ufology, extraterrestrials, past lives, and hidden history, but as well, and that is, I think, also just as important, that's governments and government secrets and government tyranny that we've seen for the past few years worldwide. And a lot of the books I talk about, I don't mention them just because I read about them or someone paid me to do it, but I personally own all of the books. I've read them, and I think there's great benefit for individuals to read them. I have no attachment to these authors or anything of that sort. I just highly recommend them. And I've always seen truly reading as growing and expanding, and of course not every word we read in the book is 100% accurate. We can't go out there and say that's the truth because we don't know. The books are written based on the author's perception or personal experiences, or retelling of the stories, or their own events that they truly believe that they went through. So we need to assess all these things properly with logically, of course, fairly, with an open mind, definitely, but also with an open heart. And we've got to see what resonates, what doesn't resonate. And I think books in a room with no books is like a body without a soul. I mean, we need to read. It's how we grow. And I think a person that doesn't want to read is equivalent as the person who cannot read. Both I dislike. So it's important to read and to assess and escalate and evaluate and see all these things as growing, really. Whether we like it, not like it, whether we resonate, don't resonate, whether we reject it right away because of our programming and conditioning, it's important to still read it and see where this takes us. In fact, I'm currently in the process writing my own first book, and it'll be released in the early 24, and that's in my direct dealings with Theta Tauri and KALASK and a few other very powerful races. So I think writing as well as reading is just as important too. And I applaud all the people that are constantly writing and expressing. And that's, writing is channeling in a way too. So that's a great thing. And I respect all the channelers out there, of course, that are authentic, obviously. And the very first author I wish to talk about is a gentleman named Bryson, or Christopher Bryson. And he has a very, very powerful book that every parent should have. And it's called The Fluoride Deception. And in relation to this book, he talked about the fluoride and the fluorine, so the deeper truth on fluoride. And he investigates fluoride and all these things quite deeply. And he questions is it really mandatory for a normal, healthy growth of teeth, or is it not? Do babies really need it? Do children really need it? Do adults need it? But then he says, do these things remove cavities or not? Let's prove, let's really see the truth, And what I appreciate about him, he says, is there a cost to the body? Is there a cost to the organs? Is there a cost to our system? So he really looks at it from a perspective, is it beneficial, is it not, regardless of what internet says. And it doesn't go against any doctors, doesn't go against anyone. But he says, why are rubber gloves worn, nitrile rubber gloves worn when handling fluoride compounds? And if exposure to fluoride, that's too high, if it is too high, then it can cause serious health issues. So why is that? And is really fluorine indeed an essential element of the production of the atomic bomb? Which it is. There was even a fluoride gas diffusion plant in Kentucky, United States, in America, which enriched uranium for the Hiroshima atomic bomb that was thrown over Hiroshima back in the mid-40s, 1945, I believe, to murder innocent 200,000 people, mostly civilians, of course. So this author does not blame any dentists, does not blame any doctors in any way. He doesn't go against any associations or anything that our doctors are telling us for pushing the fluoride on as some God's gift to humanity, but he just questions it and he investigates it truly. And he investigates it quite professionally. So he investigates the origin of fluoride and even the beginning of the promotion. The American doctors in the 40s and in the 50s, Dr. Kehoe and Dr. Carpenter, they started pushing this fluoride promotion or fluoridation of water. Suddenly, out of nowhere, overnight almost, and this author explains why, with evidence, why, where did the fluoride come from, what does it do to our mind, does it numb us down or not? Then he looks at industrial waste and phosphate fertilizer mills as well. Why is the fluoride used there? And what I like about this book is that it quotes hundreds and hundreds of different doctors and their statements, and then their research, and then their investigations, and he puts it all in this wonderful book, and including a doctor right here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, called Dr. Lineback, and he was a former head of preventative dentistry at University of Toronto, as in downtown Toronto, so King's College, meaning Queen's Park, Toronto, where the politicians gather here, province of Ontario. And anyway, this doctor showed how just toxic the toxic waste is, aka fluoride that's added to the water. And personally, about 7 or 8 years ago, I've seen fluoride type of material added to fresh drinking water as a regular normal system from City of Toronto to City of Niagara Falls, City of Waterloo, City of London, City of Hamilton, and so forth. But definitely I remember seeing it that it was handled with rubber gloves and also body protected suits. I mean, that's a pretty big problem in my perspective. But I even have 3 reports on water tests and fluoride levels for all of the City of Toronto. So the entirety of City of Toronto and the surrounding regions. 3 reports, 2020, 2021, and 2022. And I say, I kid, I'm serious when I say that it is absolutely staggering the amount of fluoride added to the water. I mean, there's other elements obviously found, nitrate, zinc, iron, cobalt, lead, sodium, and so forth, including chloride, but why so much fluoride? It's unbelievable, it's unexplainable. And this book really, I think it's a must book for every parent that is pregnant, parents that are about to have children, parents that have very small children, or the individuals that desire to have more of a holistic diet, holistic lifestyle, eliminating toxic elements from their foods and liquids that really can poison us daily. And the good question to ask, and this is verified information, is why did 98% of Western Europe reject fluoride or fluoridation? So Belgium, Denmark, Austria, to Italy, Sweden, Norway, and Switzerland, 97% of Switzerland has said no to fluoride. Over 90% in UK, so England, said the same thing. But not here in Canada, not in the United States. They want us drinking that every day. Anyway, I think the most important thing is for people, if they can afford it financially. I have one, and I'm very fortunate to have one, is to take a body reverse osmosis system so that I can, and everyone can drink and shower fluoride free. And the second author I wish to talk about is a naturopath doctor, very smart man, Mr. Morse or Dr. Morse, Robert Morse, M-O-R-S-E, and he has a book called Detox Miracle, and it's a very powerful book on complete cellular regeneration, so revitalizing every system of our body, and we have different systems, of course, and cleansing and releasing toxins. So a lot about toxic waste that we have, and detoxing, and power of raw foods and juicing. I mean, I've been juicing for many years on an empty stomach almost every day, twice on a Sunday. Whenever I can, really, juicing is like the key. Detox, cleansing, all these things, I follow it. But also, too, the book talks about elimination of eating dead food, processed food, so fast food, or drinking dead tap water. Tap water is dead water. There's nothing in it. And also, he talks about power of sugar, or dangers of sugar, another way to explain it. He also gets into tissues and cells of our cardiovascular system, our blood, our digestive system, also endocrine system, muscular system, nervous system, reproductive, respiratory, skeletal. This guy gets into all of the systems. Really, he covers it. But again, he dabs back and forth between sugar and carbohydrates or carbs. and then their overall metabolism and enzymes and vitamins and minerals and oils. I think he even talks about pH of foods, energy of each food, diabetes, obesity, and skin disorders. And we know that skin is our largest organ on our body. Skin is just massive, and talks about a lot of different pharmaceutical versus antibiotics versus natural versus parasitic, hormonic imbalances, and hundreds, definitely hundreds of different examples of detoxing. So incredible, great book. But also, I think it's important to talk about detoxing because it's imperative really, and it's critical in our lives. I mean, at least 1/3 of this book is about detox. And I think it's a great book overall to have at home. And it's a little too big of a book, but certainly should be sitting on the kitchen counter somewhere. Mine is, it's just not in the kitchen, it's in another room, but it's absolutely a great book. And I've gathered a lot of different wisdom from this book that I've implemented in my own life. But then also I bought this book for guests who come over and say, listen, here's a book, man. That's what I do. I give great gifts. My gifts are not wine. My gifts are books. Either I mail them if I respect someone, if I love someone, if I care for someone, or I'll give it to them in person. Great books are very, very important. And this is definitely one of them. Next author we should talk about is Jerry Mander. And Jerry made a funny title for his book, but it's very true. 4 arguments for the elimination of TV. That's the name of the book. But I think there's 4,000 arguments, 4 million arguments why TV should be just turned off and why cable should be canceled. I mean, this author definitely, and I should say brilliantly, shows and explains how TV watching, regular TV watching, is just fake dopamine and it's completely useless. I agree, it's garbage. Fake news, garbage, nonsense. And it's dangerous, definitely, for social life, maybe personal life, to sanity, to mental health. And I think it's used an instrument of mind programming and brainwashing. I should say electronic programming. That's probably the best term. That's what TV does. And yeah, I see TV as a tell-a-lie vision. Television, tell-a-lie vision, yeah. Technology to make people busy, to sell them a lie, to make people less active, to condition and program human mind daily, and that's very unfortunate. And this author wrote this great book, and he split it in 4 sections, I remember, and 4 different chapters, and they cover different concepts, of course, but the one that I find most favorite for me is called Effects on a TV, or Effects of a TV on a Human. And he explains really, and he shows copies of certain patents that governments have filled out, how the TV dims the human mind. And we ingest artificial light, it suppresses our imagination, suppresses the third eye from functioning, and he calls it he calls TV as a sleep teacher. I call it how to be stupid machine. Hey, what are you doing tonight watching TV? Oh, you're trying to be stupid, okay. Instead of reading books, we're watching TV. Reality shows that are made by actors are just talentless. Instead of people should be, I think, aside from reading, subscribing to podcasts and YouTube. I mean, everyone should be on YouTube every day. There's so many different videos there that everyone can benefit from instead of watching stupid TV. But this author did a great job. The next author is Mark Dice. So author Mark Dice, I've known him for a long time. He wrote a great book. Very, very, I wouldn't say gore, but very dark book that exposes dark things in Hollywood called The Hollywood Propaganda. So excellent book showing just how poisonous truly and deceiving and very, very dark and extremely fake Hollywood truly is. The movies, commercials, the music industry, the talent agencies and so forth, and all the propaganda and conditioning programming that comes with watching these how to be stupid commercials, how to be stupid movies, temporarily making a person happy. And that's unfortunate, but he shows how this shapes the current culture and the society that we live in. And every statement he makes in the book, in each chapter, with each explanation, what he dug, what he found out, what he investigated, he lists the quotation and the link where he got it from. On the same page, like on every page, 1/3 is a story, but then 2/3 of the page is just quotations, where he got the information from. So extremely authentic book with real truth and real evidence. For example, is the FBI and CIA in Hollywood? Absolutely. He explains it, shows the articles, how CIA, both and FBI have their own liaison officers, buffer officers, that work closely with Hollywood agencies, Hollywood producers in the United States when it comes to movies that are action, that are military, that are government-based, that are NASA-based, and so forth. And then he uncovers many different truths about Hollywood's biggest nights, as what we call the Oscars or MTV Music Awards and Golden Globes and Grammys and Super Bowl. And he even gets into the truth about a lot of different nightly TV shows. Jimmy Fallon is one. Who sponsors Jimmy Fallon? Who sponsors that show? Not financial sponsors. Who's in the scenes? Who's behind the scenes, and so forth. And Stephen Colbert too. Oh, that was a great chapter on that. And then in my perspective too, I think, and this is a personal note, I think he's massacred the nightly show from the great David Letterman back in 2015 when David retired. But this book talks about that. Now this particular book also gets into investigating why is there such a large presence of Satanism and satanic practices in Hollywood. Blood worshipping, why is there children abduction and so forth? Why is there Mexican drug cartels? Why are they in Hollywood? And hundreds of different stories about Hollywood. And I remember reading it and like laughing about it, not making fun, of course, because you brought back a lot of memories. And I used to live in Los Angeles area, so Venice Beach and Sherman Oaks back in the early 2000s. I was in the clothes production industry, well, bodybuilding and clothes production industry. One is kind of tied to the other if the person has certain skills, which I did bring to that table. So I was able to get a lot of great work. I mean, working from nightclub Spider to the Playboy Mansion, been there a couple times. Had nights at everything from parties at post-Oscars, so the after-Oscar nights, to vodka nights, so Sky Vodka and Cuddy's Vodka and so forth. And I think as exciting I was back in those early 20s, whatever, it was just still extremely dark. A lot of different, very, very evil, very different dark things that I've seen. And I had a buddy at the time at Gold's Gym, Venice Beach, where we used to train, Tommy. And I remember he had a client, which was Mickey Rourke, the actor, and we used to talk to him. He was shooting a movie called Man on Fire, this Mexican cartel drug movie with Denzel Washington. And he says to us that, I remember he says, Hollywood runs on the most darkest, archonic, demonic energy that anyone's ever seen. It is like that one place in the United States, aside from Washington, D.C., that is just extremely, extremely dark. And it operates out of shadows, that's for sure. I mean, average person watching their Marvel movies and Disney movies and Star Wars and so forth, I have no idea. Just like I had no idea. I went there and I got shocked by what I saw. And this was 20 years ago. This was 2003, 2004. I mean, we're in 2023 now. I had an ex-girlfriend at the time, Joanna Thomas from England, and she was an IFBB pro bodybuilder. And she was also in the clothes production industry in Venice Beach, in Malibu area. And she saw some extremely, extremely dark things while doing gigs. And I remember she was so disturbed. This is a tough girl. She's a professional bodybuilder, IFBB pro, professional bodybuilder, tremendous, strong energy. And she was like, no, I can't. She left and she went to Florida, got a boyfriend, and kind of moved there. She unfortunately passed away. Joanne Claire Dawson Thomas, wonderful person, rest in peace. But that is the thing about Hollywood is I grew up watching Hollywood and being mesmerized, just being in love with the movies and the stages and Universal Studios and all these things. And so like this wonderful happiness, I think, that the films brought to me, at least, especially in Hollywood, especially the Western movies and cowboy movies and so forth. But who knew that these very same actors who play super nice characters are just drug addicts, rapists, extreme narcissists, egomaniacs, psychopaths, PhD manipulators, that's for sure. And with that, obviously, they crushed all my childhood memories. But, I was in my 20s. I was there to make money and have fun and, multi-date and party and go out and meet as many people as I can, and actors and celebrities and so forth, and just do the gigs. But, I mean, now would I do it today? Never, of course. Those kind of people sicken me. But I'm glad, very, very glad that today there are certain brave souls in Hollywood that still talk about the truth, and that's actors such as James Woods, Mel Gibson, Jim Carvalhez, Tim Ballard of Truth, Justice, or Sparta Justice, that's his channel. Another honorable man, former federal officer. And he talks openly about child trafficking and so forth. I mean, huge business in California, absolutely. And actually, just now in July of 23, a brand new film is being released, edited by Mel Gibson. It's called The Sound of Freedom, which is based on a very true story of a former federal officer, Tim Ballard. And he's on Twitter, very active guy. And he's a founder of Operation Underground Railroad. It's a non-profit type of organization that fights against child trafficking, child slavery, all these things, all these gore, sick, disgusting, evil, dark things. And the movie is a true story, and it features Mira Sorvino and Jim Caviezel, and I look forward to watching it. Now, on a bright note, author we should talk about is Dolores Cannon. God bless her soul, rest in peace, of course. She also passed away. All these good legends have passed away. She's passed away in 2014, and she was the founder of a regression program called Quantum Healing, hypnosis technique program. And I've taken course number 1, so I know 100% that that's a very genuine, authentic program. Her daughter runs it now. Julia, I believe, is her name. And this lady, Dolores, wrote about a dozen or so books. I don't agree with all of them, of course. The books topics range from Hiroshima to Jesus is coming back, to archangels, to past lives, Zeta Reticuli, Golden Age, and these things. But what I definitely, 100 million% resonate with, there are custodians of this earth. And she wrote a book called Custodians of This Earth, Convoluted Universe, Volume 1 and 2. I have these books, and absolutely there's a tremendous amount of extraterrestrials, extra dimensionals involved with human abductions. Human prison systems are off planet, that's a fact. Also, hybridization programs are genetic materials being extracted very, very frequently. And as a trance channeler, as a professional trance channeler, I've had an honor to communicate with some extremely high-ranking physical races, off-planet races. And even they've said the same thing. Yeah, Earth is not human Earth. This is a reality, it's a realm. Humans are new, multidimensional beings. Yeah, but you're just temporary here. Like this is not your planet, and absolutely it's not our planet. And those true custodians are non-humanoid in nature. They are reptilian in nature. There's about 800 million of them living down right below us in fourth density. Fourth density, as we're third density humans, and humans are not in charge of Earth. But yeah, her book talk about that, and it's definitely a great set of books. Next author is a legend, Robert Schoch, American professor at Boston University. He's got a PhD from Yale University in geology and geophysics, and he wrote a book called Origin of the Sphinx in relation to the Giza Sphinx, and I've done a video on the Sphinx. I've been to the Sphinx, I've been to the Giza, studied pyramids from Luxor to Giza, and this guy is one of the top 5 legends, of course, on the pyramids and the ancient civilizations. And I think everyone needs to read this book if they're interested in the Egyptology and so forth. We all know that the Sphinx wasn't built by Egyptians 5,000, 6,000 years ago. With what? But those guys had ropes and camels, and they were beyond primitive at that time. I mean, this is a radical, laughable, and embarrassing propaganda, fake news type of joke to say some dude that's 105, 110 pounds with a rope built Sphinx or the pyramids. But book was co-written with another legend, Robert Bauval, which is his buddy and pyramid expert as well. He's a lecturer from Belgium, but he originally was born in Egypt, so he's got a lot of great connections to Egypt. And both of these Roberts, both of these legends, these brave men, these heroic men, these true, authentic men, they will tell you that the Egyptian pyramids, Sphinx definitely was not built 5,000, 6,000 years ago. People need to stop saying that. Sphinx is extremely old. And obviously it's been recurved. Look at the head. The head doesn't match the body. But my nephews can tell that. But the radical Egyptology lies go on and on and on. Just tunnel vision, just two-dimensional tunnel vision. We built the pyramid. We built the Sphinx. We don't know how, but we did it. That's what they told me, at least. But when it comes to these pyramids, when it comes to all these different Sphinx and all these different investigations, the Bosnian pyramid, Mexico pyramids, I've done a lot of videos on that. Some were taken down, but definitely there were 4 or 5 videos I put out there over the years, and one was live from Giza, literally as I was live streaming in Giza pyramid as I was walking up to the queen's chamber, even though there was no queens or kings ever buried there. There was no slaves at that time. No one built the Sphinx. That has to do with the local population and so forth. But this book certainly talks about that. And it's quite obvious that at that time, the Egyptians were borderline Stone Age, primitive, who didn't even know how to make a simple sewage system. And to this day, we already all know that the Cairo Giza pyramids, along with the Sphinx, were much, much, much older. Egyptians just found them there. And we also know the Egyptians just popped out of nowhere. And then they just claimed these structures as their own. So it'd be like me finding out something in my own garden, like, all right, well, I guess I built this. And it's like a perfect sphere or some kind of a device or whatever. But it's extremely difficult. And it's sad, but it's difficult to get any kind of true evidence from Egyptology, as they're one of the most corruptive organizations of all scientific study groups worldwide, in my perspective, in my solid and straight opinion. The biggest group of professional fraud artists and liars who have hidden most of the true ancient Egypt history, artifacts, evidence, tunnels, books, scriptures. And they say that they built these things, but they absolutely didn't build anything 5,000-6,000 years ago, just like the tunnels themselves. And the Sphinx has its own tunnels, and no one ever will see it as far as tourists and visitors are concerned, and so forth. But yes, this book by these two Roberts talks about all these great things. And I would have to ask one question. I would say, why do Egyptologists denounce past civilizations who were there before Egyptians? But the two Roberts, Robert Schoch and Robert Bauval, crystal clearly show that Sphinx is much, much older than what the current Egyptology says, and way older and rotted, rotted. This is very true. It's falling apart. It really is, due to being underwater for such a long time, and real water damage, flood damage, not rain, because rain's vertical. That damage down there is horizontal, so it's completely different. But the next author I wish to talk about is Jordan Peterson, a fellow Canadian, a proud Canadian, and he's got so many different books, including on political correctness, on wokeism, and the cancer that comes with that, and such as a book called 12 Rules for Life, Beyond Order, Maps of Meaning. I mean, different topics, very important for our society, our communities these days. And he's definitely one of the most influential public speakers and intellectuals in Canada now. And he's a brilliant author, in my opinion, and an incredible tutor as well. Veteran psychologist, of course. He's a real psychologist specializing in social conflict and aggression, and I believe he also does clinical psychology and so forth. I've never hired a psychologist, but I'm remembering based on his biography. And I mean, he's a true gift to Canadians, to Canada, to humanity, and his teachings and seminars and workshops and his presentations, they speak for themselves. They definitely do. Just brilliant material. He's always very calm, very collected, very sophisticated individual, well-read, well-traveled. And even his daughter takes after him. She's just like him. I mean, she's got a great podcast out. Her name is Michaela. She got a great podcast called Michaela Peterson, a podcast, this beautiful blonde lady. And any seminar, really, when it comes to Dr. Peter is just Peterson is just a must, an absolute must, and his wisdom cannot be put, obviously, into simple words. He's a guy you don't want to debate. He's a guy you don't want to debate on social things. He knows this stuff, definitely. And I like about his books, too, that he talks about discipline and pressure in the society and peer pressure with children and the youth today. Talks about resentment and anger and rage and just responsibilities about life and how the society is dumbing people down. Talks about the importance of confidence, dedication, assertiveness, willpower, and so forth. And doing the things you dislike or hate, and absolutely growing from it. And he talks about the negative impact of hate, negative impact of racism, negative impact of rage, or being egotistical, and so forth. And in his book, 12 Rules for Life, he speaks about some very strong rules, I guess, as he call it, rules to have in life, to go through some tougher energies in life, tougher situations in life, chaos in life. So overall, he's a great doctor, but also a great Canadian patriot, very, very wonderful man. The next author we should talk about is Marcello Allegreti. And he wrote a book called Topic of Frequencies. Obviously, the name speaks for itself. He speaks about research of frequencies and the use of frequencies. And what is a frequency? And he talks about bioenergetic frequencies and reef machine and the frequencies of rifting. So the book explains who even was Reef, the Royal Reef, or Raymond Royal Reef. And in America, he died in the early 70s, and he was an American inventor, known for some beautiful things, of course, we won't find on Google, but particularly about microscopes, which he was able to observe live microorganisms with a magnification device. And what he was doing is using the oscillating beam ray invention that he created. So he was able to treat various illnesses and diseases or organisms using radio waves. And that's one of my favorite parts of the book. Second part is Tesla, obviously, Nikola Tesla. He spoke about the Tesla coil imprinter and scalar wave generator, or Biometis, which is a device called Biometis Trinity, which is this tiny little Russian device. And when I was in Moscow in 2018, or was it 2019, I got one of them. It emits electromagnetic waves in multi-frequency, and then synchronization, so enhancing body functions and maintaining natural balances. It helps with those kind of things and improving organ function as well as respiratory. And I got this tiny little device, and it's by a company called Biometis. And what I associate with that book is another book on frequencies, and they are two different authors, but the books have to do with one another. And it's a book called Electroherbalism, and someone that grows his own vegetable garden. I had to read about that for a while. And the author is called author Brian McInturff, and he lists thousands, maybe tens of thousands of different frequencies associated with each human organ, and then frequencies associated with each human illness and disease and so forth, and how they work together, how these things work together, but also how they work against each other. What's good, what's bad, what's safe, what's dangerous. And he talks about the electroherbalism and alternative electronic therapy and understanding frequencies through harmonic associations, and also electrical and frequency effects that have to do with our pathogens. But deep book, definitely. I have to read that a couple of times and test out a few of these frequencies. I didn't see a lot of results. I don't think I did it long enough. I did it a few times, but definitely a great book for individuals that are very interested in electroherbalism. The next book is in relation to the chakras, and it's a great book by Dr. Judith, Anodea Judith. Dr. Judith wrote a book called Wheels of Life. I've talked about this book before a few times, and it's a very thorough, very detailed explanation on what are the chakras. So the 7 chakras used mainly here in the Western system, Western world that we live in here. And she talks about different physical to spiritual planes, the difference and the connection. She speaks on relationships and healing and healthy lifestyle and opening up chakras or unblocking the chakras, removing resistances out of the chakras. And there's obviously many more chakra systems. We're talking about one chakra system, the first 7, root to crown. But in the Western world, it's the 7 that she talks about in this book. And Dr. Judith also wrote another relating book on chakra called Chakra Yoga, concentrating on chakras while doing yoga. Very interesting book. And I have another one called Chakra Healing. I don't have the balancing chakra one. I think that's the name of the one that I'm missing, but I own about maybe 4 of them or so. I think she wrote 5 or 6, but she's published these books, great results. A lot of people love these results. The feedback online speaks for itself. And what I love about her books, she honestly writes them with a lot of patience. Great groundwork on chakras and how they function, but a lot of patience for anyone to understand. And great book. The next individual is Freddy Silva, someone who I've chatted in great lengths on my Canadian Awareness podcast in 2022. I invited him as a guest, and we were able to chat. And he's an author of 5 books and over a dozen research papers. And Freddy certainly is a leading researcher when it comes to a few things. In my opinion, I would say crop circles, ancient civilizations, and sacred sites. Particularly crop circles, that's for sure. I've done a video on crop circles. I certainly agree with this individual. He's a man that's extremely funny, very funny guy, very sarcastic guy, great sense of humor. And I remember he told me he loves his 14-year-old Scotch. So hopefully I meet him one day face to face so I can buy him that shot of Scotch. But talked about Knights of Templar, and that's what's in his books. Obviously, he talks about different things. He digs in deep. So Egyptian culture, Celtic, Native American, Indian, Greek, Persian, Japanese, and great author who spent really his whole life after his divorce in the United States, a whole life just traveling. This guy, I bet if we go right now on Facebook, he's going to be sipping a coffee somewhere in New Zealand or something like that. Great guy. So well-traveled, well-researched, and very likable guy too. I think that's someone I resonated with, and pretty funny guy, down to earth, and of course loves his Scotch. So big regards to Freddy. And the next author is the opposite of Freddy's research, and it's an author who wrote about a book on shamanic practices, Dolfyn, D-O-L-F-Y-N, and the book is, I'd say, 34 years old, 35 years old. And I came across this book long time ago accidentally. Well, even though there's no accidents in quantum universe, but it was downtown Toronto. I remember when I was living downtown Toronto, and a small, tiny little bookstore. At that time, obviously, I wasn't channeling. I didn't even understand what channeling was. I read it in that book for the first time. So I was like, well, what does that mean when you channel? Like, what channel? But the book certainly talks very lightly on channeling and shamanic practices and Earth's energy and nature and nature's spirits and elementals. It talks about animal spirits and water and elementals, the connection there, but also the sun and the practicing communication with the water, the consciousness of the water or the consciousness of the tree. Consciousness of second density beings, which are animals. Animals are second density beings. Book talks about smudging and purification, and he definitely stays away from any kind of religious talk, the religious cult or religious indoctrination, as I call it. But he does talk about concentration and meditation to source and the energy and the universe and the God and so forth, but from a shamanic point of view. And I remember clearly this was the very first time I read about channeling, and I was like, oh my God, that's incredible. But he words it differently. I understand it now, but a great little book. And also he speaks about lucid dreaming and astral, and as natives say, rainbow warriors and ancient wisdom keepers. And if I'm correct, channeling in this book was mentioned in a way that the person doesn't go into a trance to channel. Is it the person would just close their eyes and meditate and then tap into a source of something, which is a very loving way, very lightweight way, but yeah, a very loving way. The book is, I'd say, minimum 34 years old or so. It was written in the 90s sometime, I'm not sure, but great little book about channeling and spirituality and shamanism from this wonderful gentleman. The next book is also a wonderful gentleman, but he's in California, and that's Dr. Bruce Goldberg. And he's an author of many different books, past life regressionist and hypnotherapy. He's great at that. He also teaches it, so the subconscious, superconscious, unconscious, and all these techniques, how to tap into that, and how to tap into the future lives, and how to tap into the future life, or I would say visitors from different densities that are lingering around in our astral state. And he has that great knowledge, and his work and his tutoring and his seminars on past lives, they're available now on Facebook and YouTube and different channels, of course, and his books are awesome. He's a very fast talker, that's one thing. He talks way too fast. Just can't catch up what he's saying. But I remember watching him about 10 years ago. I was just like, whoa, he talked too fast. But he's done some great videos on Gaia TV with George Norrie and a few episodes there. And my favorite book is in relation to souls. And he speaks about soul healing, and I think everyone needs to heal. There's too many wounded people out there pretending to be perfect, yet they're broken on the inside. This book would be a good book for them. It's called Soul Healing. The next book is by probably, I'd say, #1 person when it comes to breathing and deep breathing. That's Wim Hof, H-O-F. And Hof wrote a book in relation to deep breathing methods and exercises and healing by breathing and ability to tolerate extreme exposures to extremely freezing cold. I mean, I'm in Canada, I go ice fishing sometimes. It definitely goes to like -40. It's horrible, it's painful. But he speaks about that, how to accept and welcome and embrace the pain and embrace that coldness and the true deep benefits of breathing techniques and deep breathing, as well as ice and being exposed to cold temperature or extreme temperatures, and talks about grounding. Grounding is critical. So many impatient spiritual people these days who just want to ascend into 5D and escape reality, who haven't even perfected grounding yet. Where are you going? Relax, you ain't going anywhere. But this book talks about grounding, and I certainly appreciate that as a channeler. And grounding cannot be skipped. The breathing cannot be skipped. Earthing cannot be skipped. These are important, these are critical, very, very, very imperative, very important things or tools or tasks that we need to go through to have successful meditations, successful integration, and successful channeling. And in my own channeling course, I do a 6-week course, one-on-one course on channeling, how to channel. Extremely long, detailed, very strict, very complex. Absolutely one of the best courses that I would say in my perspective when it comes to channeling, trance channeling. But it concentrates majority on grounding and exiting the body and integration of soul layers. But this book speaks on grounding, not in the way that I would talk about it, but it definitely brings the attention to the grounding, which is great. I highly agree. And us as humans, in my opinion, I think we used to be much more grounded in the past. And we can look at our animals now in the wild. We call them wild animals. No, they're much more grounded than we are. Much more naturally grounded. And why are animals in the nature not dying of cancer and cardiovascular diseases, but our pets at home indoor are dying of the very same things? Why is that, if they're the same species? How come an indoor pet dies of the very same disease that their owner dies of? And they live shorter. We rarely see serious diseases of nature, such as cancer in the animals dying of cancer in the nature. We don't necessarily see that. Unfortunately, over the years, humans have disconnected themselves and also disconnected themselves from the electric source and the Gaia's energy that maintains the electrical stability in the body and within the immune system. And I've always promoted, always spoken extremely highly of the benefits of deep breathing, benefits of deep meditations, benefits of grounding and earthing and walking around barefoot and hugging trees and doing things in nature, because it's the nature that helps us rejuvenate. But doing this with determination and visualization and intent. And all these things help our biochemistry. So if we look at deep breathing, we see that the diaphragm expands, intestines get a massage really, belly goes up when diaphragm moves and lungs expand. So the deep breaths and oxygen comes in, the oxygen comes in, and then activation of sympathetic nervous system occurs. Carbon dioxide leaves the body or exits the body, and then the oxygen replaces it, making the body much more alkaline, and absolutely a huge benefit for our biochemistry. So this book speaks about biochemistry, another reason why I appreciate this book, certainly. But the deep breathing and also ice plunging is also combined and kind of talked about in this book as well. And he speaks about the combination of the two. And yeah, it creates great dopamine. And dopamine, in my perspective, is extremely important, not by watching social media on our phone, but real dopamine. And I think it's also misunderstood what dopamine is. It's not just feeling good, browsing Instagram. No. The neurochemical dopamine is actually a substrate by which neuroenergy is created. So it's a molecule of motivation, not temporary fix of happiness. It's a motivation, it has to do with motivation and the passion and the fire and the desire to pursue other things, great things and goals in life based on motivation, to be motivated. So deep breathing exercises can awaken tremendous amount of dopamine in a human. I mean, even if it's 0.25%, 0.5%, 1%, it can increase, and if it increases, it can change the day completely. A person can just kind of go sluggish about the day, and next thing you know, they're just flying by, getting a lot of different errands done, and feeling great about it. So Hof's book, in a way, is a combination of all these things: breathing, grounding, earthing, icing. It talks about dopamine and just benefits, just improving the immune system. And different breathing methods are described in the book with depictions as well, so how to do them. I mean, even now in summer here in Canada, every time I jump into my outdoor ice barrel tank, which is like 30 feet from where I'm sitting now, I think of this guy. I saw this on his social media, so I ended up buying one for myself, but he's definitely a pioneer in this. But there's another pioneer on the grounding, and his name is Clint Ober, O-B-E-R. He often talks about breathing and grounding and earthing. Both of these guys are great. Next author I wish to recommend is Dr. Michael Newton, who He's no longer with us, but he's passed now, and he was a leading name in the past life regression. He was a master hypnotherapist, very, very known, and he was the founder of an institute called the Newton Institute, and obviously an author of several different books on past lives and reincarnation and incarnation and the difference between the two. And his books have been translated in like 30 or 40 different languages, so extremely known, famous, reputable author. At that time, he was one of the most recognized names in the past life regressions. I know Barbara Lamb is a big name, Dolores Cannon and so forth, but he was that first psychologist that kind of became a master hypnotherapist, and he wrote some great, thick, massive, long, detailed books on past life regression, including real sessions with his clients, what they said during the regression. So he would talk about it, and he would type up in the book, he typed up what they were saying, what they were seeing. So everything from deaths to conflicts in their past lives. And he never dabbed into too long or too much into extraterrestrial topics, but his regressions are awesome. Second to none, really. Great book. Another lady is slightly younger than him, Mary Silva, and Mary is someone, if you want to learn about spirituality and astral and lucid and dream states, you want to kind of get the base knowledge, yeah, Mary Silva is the woman for that. She shares her extensive knowledge in her books, and there has to be, I would say, 15 books, 20 maybe, all of them that she wrote. They're very short, 50 pages, 60 pages, but they're to the point. Like, what's lucid dreaming, what's third eye, what's astral, spirituality, awakening, kind of a Cole's notes on spirituality, kind of a crash course on spirituality. So basics that I think everyone needs to know and cannot skip and just say, no, I'm going to forget that. I'm just going to kind of do my own thing. And no, these books are very good, very short. Like I said, about 50, 60 pages, but they're great guides. A nice read for any beginner, that's for sure. Another lady is a wonderful lady out of Australia, Barbara O'Neill. And she has a beautiful website and that's associated called livingspringsretreat.com. She's from Australia, Australian wonderful health teacher, naturopath. She's approximately 70, 75 years of age. An angelic type of lady, just a beautiful, loving soul, and a teacher and a tutor on nutrition, healthy lifestyle, healing, of course, and living a holistic diet, and talking about fixing the nervous system to cellular, to vascular, to mental health. And mental health extremely important today, in my opinion. I know a lot of people that are PTSD, they're just wonderful, brave boys. And yeah, this book that she writes, Barbara, there's a couple of different books, speak on mental health and also natural remedies to utilize to beat a lot of different small little nonsense, the flus and colds and stuff like that. And she's associated as well with another American location in Alabama, a town called Reoki. And Barbara does not live there, but she does fly in and does retreats. She was just doing a retreat now in July of 23, a 10-day retreat there, like a long seminar. But overall, she's an extremely intelligent and smart woman, well-spoken, very sophisticated and elegant, very humble, quiet and calm, just loving. You just want to take her home and hug her all day, just a loving human being. And she speaks often, my mother benefited from a lot about hormonal imbalances, arthritis, cancer. So she's got a lot of different knowledge from a naturopath point of view, and her books such as Self-Heal is one of my favorites. Second one is called The Assassination of Barbara. Now, no one killed her, but her character was assassinated due to some false accusations. The important is that she continues to do what she does. She continues to help humanity. She continues to be in service for humanity, and her advice, her teachings, her tutorings, her courses, they speak for themselves, and their presentations are extraordinarily beneficial, as well as her books. I highly recommend them. The next author I wish to talk about, the energy is the opposite, extremely dominant, tough, intense, masculine energy. Jocko, Jocko, a retired United States military Navy SEAL officer who was in the Team 3, Navy SEALs Team 3. And he has a silver star, he has a bronze star, very heroic, courageous guy, and he's now in his 50s, he's retired, he's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so a very strong-minded individual, strong energy, beautiful energy. And he's on YouTube, on his podcast with like 2 million subscribers, called the Jocko podcast, and great podcast, that's for sure. And the guy has a very, very powerful mind. His leadership strategy book, for example, shows how to become very effective when you're in charge of something, or in a team, or a group, or some kind of a military project that he constantly keeps talking about and depicting based on true stories, and how his power of traits of accountability, determination, consistency, and many others, including willpower, that he used in his team of Navy SEALs and how they succeeded in many different military operations. His other book called The Economy Leadership Book, or the Leadership Book, which is about probably 5 or 6 years old or so, is based on true events and his own experiences in Iraq while being a Navy SEAL commander, and how he demonstrated again leadership qualities and this leadership determination to survive, and his buddies for them to survive, and how to really lead the Navy SEAL team. His other book, Discipline Equals Freedom, or The Freedom. The book is about mastering discipline into your life, into anyone's life, and how to really bring the best version of yourself out, how to increase mental capacity, mental toughness, how to improve mental health, and also physical strength as well as, and how they're all interlinked, which is very true. So a powerful book that's filled with not just wise advice or his wisdom, but also with quotations and pictures, and really like the overall topic on toughness and willpower and determination and discipline, of course, as well. And this guy's all about discipline, of course, and anyone that watches his own podcast will know that. And his discipline advice, his discipline wisdom, his discipline kind of leadership type of programs that he offers are not some airy-fairy bullshit illusions, but they're based on real events, real advice, and they really work. The next author I wish to speak is Gregg Braden. Everyone, of course, knows this very smart man who's known for linking science and spirituality, extremely well-spoken, well-traveled, and I think he's a mix of a scientist and a visionary and scholar, and all in one sort of mixed up in this consciousness world. And he talks about consciousness and the true potential, and his books are really informative, extremely informative, well ever laid out, quite detailed, of course. And he's also New York's best-selling author of about 5 times, maybe 6 times. I own 3 of his books. He's got many more. I believe he's got over a dozen books, but my favorite is his Wisdom Codes book, which is about rewiring our minds and hearts. Well, actually, my favorite book of his own would be Divine Matrix. I take that back. The Matrix book, definitely I've enjoyed. And it's about time and space, or space and time, and really bridging the time and space together, and understanding the time and space, understanding the universe, understanding all of this, but from a perspective of a scientist, not from a perspective of a channeler, of an extraterrestrial contactee. No, just a scientist. So very well written. Another author is Candace Owens, a wonderful book called Blackout. Brilliant book, honestly, by a powerful and very wise, very intelligent, fast-speaking Black woman out of the United States. Very well-paced book, and certainly supported by well-researched, a lot of different research, tremendous amount of facts. And this book is for anyone who cares about their American society, particularly Black community, equality, and the truth in life, really, but definitely dedicated to the Black community in the United States. And the book certainly shows, I mean, it's no secret, is how Black community have been oppressed and destroyed, really, and I would say by the alt-left establishments throughout the United States, especially including the Democratic Party. And it really, really shows how for far too long the Black community in the United States have been really lied to by the Democratic leaders. And they still are lied to. And these Democratic leaders just use Black people for votes, definitely, to keep them in power. And this has been going on for way too long. I mean, as she really shows in this book, the endless amount of wonderful Black community stories, and I have a lot of Black friends, and I have a lot of wonderful friends that come from those communities, even really hardships and poverty, and just the stories of how they come up, the things that they went through. I mean, friends from Flint, Michigan, to Los Angeles, to Florida, even here in Toronto. And as Candace says too, like, no, in our community, as she says, our community should not answer to the God of government. Our community should answer to the God. And I really appreciate that, of course. And her own podcast, the Candace Show, is great. She covers a variety of different topics that have to do with current political scams, staged events, and all different truths, of course. But she always does great research, investigation, evidence, even visiting the site and doing filming there. She's an extremely noble woman, highly, highly respected, not just in the podcast industry, but highly respected in general. She's got a great documentary, The Greatest Lie Ever Sold. I suggest everybody to watch that. Black people, white people, we're brothers and sisters anyway. In my perspective, we all should watch that documentary. But really, I think the United States is in a very bad spot right now. It's run by mechanical clones and fraud artists and sellouts pretending to be leaders. And it's completely turned away from people, from culture, from family, traditions, religions, its pride, its honor. I mean, ever since the 2020 elections occurred, the United States has been going down the hill, in my opinion. The next book I wish to speak about is Bhagavad Gita, old book, of course, and this book is extraordinarily lengthy. It was recommended to me by a female friend of mine from Sweden named Asli, who's actually a brand new draconian channeler of a very honorable race named Huns, great, big, powerful beings. And she studied Hinduism for a very long time, traveled through Europe, and has a very mature age, very mature outlook on life. And she says, you know what, Anthony, you got to read this book. And I always knew about this book. I heard of this book, of course. I understood certain portions of the book, important things. And I tied a lot of that information from the mistranslations, of course, that were told by the Catholic Church and many different things. But this book, obviously, I got it. And I remember reading it, and I got a headache. First 5 pages, that's how complex this book is. But tremendous amount of ancient wisdom, advice, and wisdom really that can be applied in everyday life, sort of. So again, extremely and extraordinarily complex book to read, especially the translations, but a must for those studying ancient civilizations, particularly on Vedas. I mean, I'm not a religious person in any way. I don't promote religion, this organized cult, but definitely this is the one book I did appreciate for sure. And the book overall is obviously extremely massive. I think it has 700 or 800 different pages of Hindu scripts and many things, including part of the Epak Mahabharata and old scriptures and universal teachings, and just great to read for a spiritual awareness, life advice, life wisdom, and also spiritual realization and yoga as well, and so on. And the last book, but definitely not the least, is a doctor named Charles Thomas, and Dr. Dail, both of them, with a book called Hydrotherapy. And very simple home type of treatments, type of common illnesses that can be cured naturally, of course, with natural remedies, of course. Similar advice that we get from naturopath doctors, so real, genuine, authentic advice, nothing to do with conspiracy theories, real advice, but also too a lot of different perspectives on skin, which is our largest organ. But of course, even with digestive issues, even with immune problems, and a variety of different ways to really help yourself, not taking any bad toxic drugs, but help yourself naturally. And I think another way I would describe it is it's a guide that should be on every kitchen counter. And obviously this advice, this wisdom, we're not going to find on the internet, but hydrotherapy information on the internet I think is extremely suppressed. But this book, of course, elaborates in details. And I think that when it comes to the internet, due to the extraordinarily censorship and corruption and suppression of real good information, or any truth, really any truth. It can be a truth about weather, it can be a truth about food, it can be a truth about politics, or it's completely suppressed. But we must not ignore the research. We must not ignore the truth, this important concepts, because this is how we're going to succeed in this incarnation. And I think reading is just one tool, just one of the many, but one tool to take us all into an extremely high, elevated position or higher level of consciousness. I mean, being spiritual, lighting incense and wearing a Buddha t-shirt isn't going to make you do shit. Reading is going to make any person elevate themselves into an extremely higher position in this particular reality. So in this timeline, in this reality, or in this realm that we're in. So reading. Today a reader, tomorrow a leader, that's for sure.